Okay, today on the show, we have Jess Lenouvel from thelistingslab.com. Now, Jess is a real estate expert and founder and CEO of The Listings Lab, a virtual training and mentorship program for real estate agents to get them from 6 to 7 figures. With over 15 years of experience, Jess helps agents overhaul their advertising and scale massively while leveraging the power of online marketing. Instead of relying upon old school traditional methods used in the industry, she uses strategies developed through partnerships and real experience. Jess has personally built a multiple 7-figure business that has sold over 300 million of property in the last 5 years alone. Now, as head of the Listings Lab, she has helped over 1,000 real estate agents create a track record of huge results. Please, everyone listening or watching right now, go visit thelistingslab.com. Jess, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks so much.
I am so excited to have you. This is really, we're very, very excited. We're so glad that we connected with each other, or I'm so glad we connected with each other. And I would like first, before we get to the Listings Lab and all of the services that you do offer real estate agents to help get them to have their best year ever in 2021 and beyond, I'd like to learn more about you because you were a top producer and you ultimately ended up leaving to start this business to help real estate agents. But I'd love to hear about how you built your real estate business.
Yeah, for sure. So I got into real estate almost by accident. I think a lot of us can sort of say that. I was 21, straight out of school, had no idea what I was going to do. I have a degree in African and Caribbean studies. So not
so you could
super.
You could be a professor, I'm guessing. And
no, not even anymore. I need more qualifications for that. So, but my mom's been a realtor for 35 years. So she sort of said, I think you'd be good at it. Maybe try, see what you think. So I got my license and just kind of like puttered around for a year or two.
This is at 21.
At 21. So I was really young. And I looked like I was 16. So it was actually pretty hard to get.
And I'm assuming none of your friends at 21 are probably, or very few are buying property.
Well, and the other thing that I struggled with was my entire sphere of influence was also my mom's. Right. So, right, like, were they going to use me or were they going to use my mom who had 20 years of experience and wasn't 21?
Right, exactly.
Right? So that was rough starting out, but the way that I actually got my business rolling, there was this brand new thing out there called Facebook. And I essentially started prospecting on Facebook in the classified section, which doesn't exist anymore. Right. But I just started making connections with people, friending people, having conversations, things like that were clearly looking for something to do with real estate. Some of it ended up being rentals at first that turned into buyers down the road. Some of it actually ended up being listings and things like that I pulled from there. Obviously that wouldn't work nowadays, but back then there were very few people doing it. So it worked really well. And that's really how I started initially growing my business.
Yeah, I remember like 10 or 11 years ago, there were people, and it was very rare that somebody would think to do this, but with Twitter in particular, when Twitter was a lot more popular, you could do the same thing. You could do a geographic search for the community that you service real estate and then look for certain keywords like moving or new house or new job and things like that. And those aren't as accessible anymore. And now we have the Facebook marketplace, but no classifieds and things. So, but just out of curiosity, when you were finding people on Facebook, which again, I'm assuming these are people because it's classified, these are people you didn't know before. Mm-hmm. Did you find was it challenging to make those connections because Facebook really is a peer-to-peer or friend-to-friend network? Yeah. Was it difficult to sort of bridge that gap?
Not really. I think that I went about it really differently. And I still do the same thing. I still teach the same thing. We lead with value. Yeah. Right. And so that's exactly what I did back then. It was, what do they need? What don't they know? And, you start the relationship that way. The law of reciprocity is super powerful. So, I would give them as much value as I could. And then when it came down to it, a lot of the time they would turn around and say, hey, you know what? I think you should just help us.
Yeah. I love that. And then, so you started to grow your business, predominantly fed through connections you made on social media, Facebook in particular. And then sort of how did you move on from there?
So I did a lot of different things. I would say the first 8 years of real estate. I was a solid multiple six-figure agent, which isn't hard to do in my market. And I found clients in different ways. Most of it was online, but I very rarely put a lot of kind of juice behind what I was doing.
Sure.
And about my last 5 years, I decided, okay, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep doing this, then I'm going to kick it up a notch. I want to do something and I want to really see what I'm capable of here. So the big mindset shift for me was really, I stopped looking at myself as a realtor and I started looking at myself as a marketer. Yeah. And I went out and I learned marketing from anywhere that I possibly could. I took programs and courses. I went outside of the industry. I got engaged to my wonderful now husband, who had a background in graphic design, but also really, really understood marketing. And he and I kind of came together and we started to develop what we use now, which has changed and evolved, of course, 100 times. Sure. But it really started to work. And really what ended up happening is I was working for a builder because I wanted to learn the inside of some builder stuff back then. And when I left that position, I was like, well, I'm starting from scratch essentially. Right. What are we going to do and how are we going to do this quickly? So, we really, at the time, we started building landing pages and running ads and building relationships on Facebook and really creating like really value-driven content to put out into the world. And we went from essentially 0 to 7 figures in 6 months.
Wow.
Talk about burnout. I don't recommend it.
Right. Because you still have to service every one of those leads and clients, right?
100%. And it was just me because he's not licensed. Never has been.
Wow.
So obviously at that point, at about 6 months, the team started to grow. Yeah. Out of necessity for my mental health. And we ended up growing like just a small team. It was never a massive team. I mean, we never wanted one. But, the team was very high producing. We ended up doing somewhere between 250, 300 deals a year, three agents and marketing and admin.
So you and your husband would be kind of the marketing arm and also running the business and also probably servicing clients too. You'd be servicing clients too, yep. But then being able to feed the fruit of your marketing efforts to the team, and they would just go, that's amazing.
Yep. Yeah. So it ended up being really great and it was fun. And, we were having a lot of success and at the same time, because we'd leveraged the team so well, that I wasn't in a situation where I had to be on call all the time. Mm-hmm. So, I would take a good 2 to 3 months off a year. We traveled all the time. We would just kind of look at the seasons of what was happening in the market and decide when we were going to take off.
Sure.
And life was good.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I'm curious too on, and what the sort of spend was per client back then. Like, what did it, if you remember the numbers from back then, because I know, Facebook actually corporate comes on our show once a month to talk about tools they have for real estate agents. And we've had lots of social media experts come on, and people that have built a lot of their business through social, either search engine marketing or social marketing. Mm-hmm. And, I'm always curious on like what the return was then and has it changed at all to what people are spending now?
I actually think that it was a little bit more back then than I would say it is now. I'm going to work a number for you, but we were spending around $3,000 a month. So we were not spending that much money.
Right.
So about
one sale covers that.
Totally. Yeah. So 36 grand a year and let's say 250, $69.
Wow. Incredible. $69 to acquire a customer. That is, I mean, any agent would spend that all day long.
Yeah. And at the time there was, we definitely have built out systems now that are better at using psychology to take someone from stranger to client. Sure. A lot of, when we first started, a lot of that conversion was happening manually, which is the opposite of what I teach now. Right. But at the time, people weren't using retargeting that often. It was, it really wasn't, content marketing wasn't the powerful force that it is now. And so, some of that needed to change over time as we started to scale as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of what a lot of agents I think are, they have so much to do with their business. They have to obviously service clients. They have to source clients. They have to do most of the admin work unless they're on a team that'll, maybe takes care of some of that for them. They really are a business owner who wears most of the hats, if not
Yeah.
all of the hats. And marketing and in particular, whether it's just branding or whether you're specifically going out looking for clients online and doing you have a marketing spend, that is just so much work. Even just your branding around social posts, what are you
Mhm.
posting? How consistent is it with your values, your brand, and how often are you doing it? The frequency. It's all just so it's a crazy amount of information to learn as a business owner, and then execute it when you're
Mhm.
doing 9-10 hours a day of other business is really, really challenging, which I guess is where you guys come in.
Yeah, no, totally. And, a lot of what we teach, yes, you have to set it up on the front end, but there's a lot of
Sure.
automation involved in it. So,
Sure.
all of the retargeting campaigns, all the nurture from stranger to client, all of that can be done from like a paid traffic standpoint in
Sure.
an automated way. The way that we teach content creation, I'm a really big proponent of creating your own content. I think that I can go on almost any agent's profile, and I can tell whether or not they've outsourced it or they're creating it themselves. I think it's
Right.
pretty obvious for most people. And a lot of content that comes out is, especially from agents, is, I would say, vague and kind of, I don't know, not very specific, not market specific, not client specific. It just tends to be kind of just a post for the sake of a post.
Sure.
So a lot of what we teach is basically like, how can you maintain the growth, the marketing, and all of the things that you need to do from a marketing standpoint, both organically and through paid traffic, with like an hour a week.
Oh,
So
well, that's incredible. And I realized I jumped way ahead in our story because
that's
I
okay.
want to get to how do we get to an hour a week
Yeah.
of managing our social sort of life. But we didn't talk about how you decided to make this your full-time, sort of thing. So you were managing this team. You guys were doing hundreds of deals a year. You had a system in place where, you were managing it and you were getting a predictable return on investment. You were able to travel for a few months out of the year. And then sort of what was the next evolution after that?
I think I was in my early 30s, and I think I had a bit of an existential crisis. Maybe I went through like a midlife crisis a little young. So I was in Hawaii, and I'm driving down this beautiful road.
By
It's
the
like,
way, a wonderful place to have an existential
oh yeah,
crisis.
no, for sure.
If you're going to have a breakdown, do it somewhere tropical.
Do it like in Hawaii or something.
Yeah. I'm
It
sorry.
was
Go ahead.
so good. Yeah, we were having like this beautiful time, best vacation ever. And we're driving in this Jeep that we rented top down, and I start bawling. Like
Oh.
I'm sobbing. And my husband looks over at me and is like, "What could you possibly be crying about right now?" Right. And I just looked at him and I said, "I don't think I'm going to sell real estate anymore."
Yeah.
And his face just dropped. Because he's like, we've built not only our entire lives, but like our financial lives, our like everything in our life comes from that business. What are you talking about? And I'm so lucky because he's the most supportive man in the world. But I basically said, I was like, look, I just, my heart's not in this anymore. I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing. And when I think about, what I'm going to be doing when I'm 40 or when I'm 50, or like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
And so we sat down, and we started talking about different things and, where things could go. And he sort of said, the times that I see you light up the most, like the times that I think that you're really the happiest, is when somebody comes and knocks on your office door and says, "How are you doing this?"
Yeah.
And you get to like help them and teach them. And like, even if it's just something really small, that tends to be where you're the happiest. So that's what we did. And it was the scariest decision I've ever made in my life, because I was walking away from something that really was a sure thing.
Yeah, it was predictable, it was
Yeah.
reliable,
Yeah.
and it was a machine that you just had to monitor and keep the gears running.
Yeah.
But it wasn't fulfilling you.
It wasn't for me. And
Right.
I don't think that, like, don't get me wrong, I know that there are people who are super fulfilled by what they do when they're helping people literally find the place that they're going to lay their head every night. But it was just not the right thing for me, I think, in the long term.
Sure.
I also realized, being in Hawaii, that I wanted to be a little bit more location independent.
Yeah.
right? I wanted to be able to pick up and sort of work from anywhere. And so that's one of the things that we really took into account as we were building out what we built. We built the Listings Lab very quickly. And I literally could not tell you that it was more of the right thing for me personally.
Well, let's talk about the Listings Lab, because I'm now excited to hear, what does fulfill you and how it's helping other agents.
For sure. So the Listings Lab is kind of our signature program. We have some other programs as well. We've got a program for new agents. We've got a program called the 7-Figure Agent that is for agents who are really looking to scale quickly and build out their team. But our Listings Lab program is everything from a marketing standpoint that you need to go from 6 to 7 figures. So the whole premise behind it is the right content in front of the right person at the right time automatically.
Yeah.
Right. So it really is about creating relationships at scale. And, I think that there's so many things and so many people that teach you to just talk to more people,
Sure.
whether it's prospecting, whether it's, wearing your realtor pin to the grocery store. Like there's all kinds of stuff that people will tell you to do.
Have more conversations with buyers and sellers.
Exactly.
That's the common approach to finding more clients. Yes.
Exactly. So everything that I do and everything that I teach is not based on the one-to-one. It's based on one-to-many.
Yeah.
So how can you have something that is fully and optimally leveraged so that you can have more relationships being built at the same time that feel just as deep or maybe even deeper than if you were having a one-on-one conversation? So the idea is that, the lead comes in, however it comes in. We use Facebook a lot because it's the easiest place to micro-target.
Sure.
And then from there, we actually take someone through a 9-point psychological journey from stranger to client. Now, all of that can be done in an automated way through really high quality content. So that's one of the foundational things that we really focus on. So it's content creation, written, video. It's the psychology. It's understanding this person at the deepest level. Marketing at the end of the day is just being able to articulate what's in the back of someone's head better than they can. Right. And then they'll automatically credit you with the solution. So a lot of what we do at the beginning of the program, the foundations of it it's very psychologically driven and really, doing the market research and really understanding what these people need to hear from you.
So I remember years ago, before before social media advertising was as sophisticated as it was, that the predominant way people would do this is they would build a landing page for a product or service. They would somehow, through either paid search marketing or through organic traffic, they would drive you to the homepage. They'd do everything they could to get your first name and your email, because then they would put you on a drip campaign, and you would get like a series of emails, and that's still, it's not as popular as it used to be, but you still see that from time to time. But that was really the only way that online marketers had, if it was a difficult sort of purchase where you're like, no, I have to nurture this client through this entire process at scale. I better have 15 emails locked and loaded, and I better be driving traffic to get those. And now you're able to sort of evolve, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. That's fine too.
We still use email too. It's not like email's not dead. I know that some people like to say that it is. Email's not dead as long as your open rates are good, and as long as your emails are really, really high quality. It still works, but it's also not enough.
It isn't enough. And so basically, though, we're talking about taking customized content and putting someone through a sales funnel, or maybe funnel isn't the right word, but just a sales sort of journey, from stranger to hopefully client. But it's a very specific set of information that you're going to be delivering. You're going to be delivering it in a specific order at a specific time, and based on maybe the interaction even with the previous amount of content. So this is really something that you and your husband have developed to sort of get, it's basically not a fully automated system, but a system that really pushes somebody through a funnel in a way that they're not manually having to do that. Correct?
100%. Yeah. And the end result is always, the goal is always the come list me call. Right. Hey, I've seen your stuff. I've been following you. I feel like we're best friends already. When can you come and list my house?
So we're talking about getting the customer hooked on your content.
Yeah. So there's really the element of building that know, like, and trust factor. And I know that's used and it's so cliche in the marketing world, but it really does make all the difference, especially in an industry like real estate that our trust levels from the general public are so bad.
Sure.
Right. And so it is so important that we're building this kind of human connection. Right. This is a human to human business. We have to build a human connection with another person for that person to feel comfortable enough to not have to interview 5 people.
Sure. So utilizing the social media sort of, or basically social media marketing and delivering content to that consumer, how do you introduce yourself and create that that connection, through a virtual means when you're not doing it one-to-one? What do you have any sort of suggestions or tips or tricks that you could share?
For sure. So instead of kind of explaining all 9 content types, because we'll be here forever, I can break it down into 3 major buckets.
Great.
So your first bucket is your authority content. So we call it authority value. It's going to be basically like any question that you ever get when you're out selling real estate. That's authority content. Answer that question,
Yes.
right? Teach people what it is that they're asking and what they need to know. Now, I don't believe in things like, your generic market stats and your market updates. I think way too many people are just taking something they got from their brokerage with some branding on it and throwing it up on social media. Now, there is a better way to do it, which is basically interpret the data for your audience. What does this actually mean for you? And, give a little bit more information and build a little bit more trust in your expertise in terms of, what's the trend in the past? Where are we now? And where do I see this going in the future? So that's kind of authority content, which is,
I know my stuff, basically.
Yeah, I know my stuff. I'm answering your questions.
I'll digest the information and I'll present it to you in a way that's more easily digestible for you.
Yeah, and it's actually that I'm actually going to pay attention to.
It's relevant and it's important to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, then we have the second bucket, which is your personal bucket. This is personal beliefs, personal philosophy, personal story. Because really at the end of the day, if you're just a real estate robot, there's going to be some trust issues in and around there. And especially if you've niched down or you specialize in helping people who are at the same point in life as you are, they're really going to resonate with a lot of the things that are going on in your life. And, I'll get messages from people who are like, hey, I've been following you for a year and I'm really interested in working with you. By the way, I saw you did a 3D Game of Thrones puzzle last weekend. And that's, just something random like that. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like there's some sort of a weird connection that they feel comfortable enough to actually reach out. And I think a lot of that initial reach out will be something like, a funny video of your cat and not necessarily an authority piece of content.
Right. So maybe a non-real estate related sort of, I'm a human, here's what I'm up to kind of.
For sure.
Content.
For sure. And really, really explaining like, who are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? Where do you come from? What does your day-to-day life look like? What's your lifestyle like? And then our third bucket would be something like social proof. So this is case studies, testimonials, and PR, not just listed, just sold.
Yeah. Can we talk just really quickly about just listed, just sold, just to, what are I already know your opinion because you're laughing. I'm a marketer too. So I'm not a practicing real estate agent. And I still think the majority of the social posts I see related to real estate are just listed and just sold. And it drives me crazy because I'm like, yes, okay, your friends will cheer you on. They'll be like, how exciting for so-and-so. And that's great. I don't know that it impresses anybody else.
No, and trying to show people that you have business to get more business is a pretty archaic way of doing things. Right. So really the just listed, just sold are a look at me, yes. Whereas your content really should be not what do I want to say, but what does my ideal client need to hear? Yeah. And I think a lot of the time people will fall into the bad habit of the just listed, just sold because they really don't know what else to do.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's easy and it's what other people are doing and that's what they're seeing. But the only people who really like and comment on those things, just like you said, friends and family who are like, yay, you did a deal, or other agents.
Well, and it's also funny too, because it is basically the only industry where people are bragging about their success on social media. I mean, really think there is virtually no other. I mean, I don't even see like car salesmen, which I'm not
Yeah.
equating real estate to car salesmen. I'm just thinking of people who sell like
They
a
just don't,
product
nobody
everyone
does it.
uses. Yeah, like everyone lives somewhere, every drives a home, but everyone drives a car, but I don't see, hey, I just sold this really cool car, but you do see, hey, I just sold this beautiful home. And
Yeah.
that's and again, I guess it's probably better than doing nothing, but it's not really providing value to your consumer.
Mhm.
Yes, it is saying there is some authority proof, I guess, a little bit with like, hey, I know what I'm doing, I'm obviously busy and I'm successful, but it's not necessarily giving people content that is going to make a difference in their life.
No, and it's really not going to attract the people that you want to work with. And I think that that's really the difference between, creating a business that is based on chasing and building a business that's based on attraction. So, what we teach instead from a social proof standpoint is, something like a case study. Stories are 22 times more powerful and more memorable than facts. So, as soon as you start to tell the story of Sally and Jim, who, they just had a baby and they were in a condo that was too small for them and they really needed space and they were like falling all over each other and the baby was crying and they were going to get divorced. And then they moved, they upsized, and what that process looked like. And, now they're in this house and they each have their own office and the babies, you just want to tell the story because someone's going to see that and be like, oh my gosh, that's me and I need her help to get me there.
Right.
Right. And there's a reason why we're also obsessed with HGTV. It's
Right.
exactly what they're doing. They're just, it's basically a beautiful case study. And that's what people are really drawn to. And at the same time, you're actually in a more effective way showing your audience that you can help them where they are to get where they want to go. So the case study is something we use a lot. Testimonials are also something that we use. I really love video testimonials, but a lot of agents are terrified to ask their clients for a quick little video testimonial, but they're the most powerful thing in the world.
Super powerful, and all you have to do is tell your client and basically beg and plead them, but in a nice way, to say all you have to do is turn your phone around,
Yeah.
push record for 1 minute or
Mm-hmm.
however long it takes you, tell the story. There, whatever you want to, whatever your experience was buying this home or selling a home or working with me, it's remarkably, you don't need, you don't need to hire a crew, although you can
No,
certainly do
gosh,
that.
no.
But yeah, it's just it's remarkable. And that's, yeah, we all, I mean, there's a reason why reality TV is like half of the television that's on even today, because we like seeing real life stuff, and it doesn't have to be perfectly polished or perfectly lit. It just has to, the content has to be authentic
Mhm.
and yeah, just real.
The other trick that we use sometimes when a client is like really worried about like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to take a video
Yeah,
myself. We'll just get them on Zoom, hit
perfect.
speaker view, and then you crop yourself out of the top.
I love
That's
it.
it makes it super easy. You can ask them a couple of questions, you can edit it a little bit, and then just, you have yourself this beautiful testimonial that's actually on video. And people really trust the video more than they trust a written review.
Yeah, absolutely. Because anyone can fabricate a written review.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more work to fabrocate a video, which
A
that
lot
can be
more
done
work.
too, but it's a lot harder. And obviously you're probably aren't going to
Yeah.
be fabricating video. But boy, I see a lot of testimonials on agent websites, and I'm like, is that a real
Did someone
written
really write
testimonial?
that?
Yeah, did someone, because it's always like first name and then last initial of the, first initial of the last name, and I'm not sure. But yeah, so you would recommend asking, all of your clients,
Mhm.
the ones, of course, who had a good experience, to, and I think maybe the easiest way to ask that, and this is just my opinion, I'd love to get your opinion,
Mhm.
is to contact your client. And I don't think it even matters when, even if it's 2 years ago that you sold them the home, I think it's
Yeah.
perfectly okay to say, hey, I'm in the process of doing my business plan for this year, and I realized I forgot to ask for you if you would do me a giant favor. This would help me get the word out about how I treat clients. Would you mind just sharing your experience? Turn your phone around,
Yeah.
speak for a minute, and that's really all you have to say. And some people won't do it, some people will.
Some people
um,
will be uncomfortable and some people will be so happy to.
yeah.
But at the same time too, if you are, if you're, I know that not a lot of people are going to closings and stuff in real life
Sure.
now, but when we're allowed to again, then at that point you can even just, I've, done this before with people when you're in person, and just literally put your hand on them and say, I'm going to turn a camera on right now. And I
Yeah.
just want you to tell everyone what this process was like and how happy you are right now.
That works. I have a question. I want to go back to
Yeah.
creating these sort of sales funnels, and I was
Mhm.
curious because I'm in Chicago. There's many neighborhoods here. Each neighborhood is its own little microcosm and its
Mhm.
own little market. And
Mhm.
I was just thinking, if I was an agent and I focused in like 3 neighborhoods here in the city, I probably would want to create 3 different funnels
Mhm.
where the content is specific to each neighborhood, right? So I would be wanting to provide content. Now, that's not necessarily why somebody might be wanting to hire you because they're going to move to a different neighborhood,
Mhm.
but I would think you would also be looking for people that are raising their hands that are interested in those particular neighborhoods and feeding them content. So I'm curious on, do you deal with some of your clients, which your clients are real estate agents who have multiple markets, and you set up sort of multiple tracks based on their specific geographic areas?
So we do things a little bit differently. I don't tend to niche people down in terms of location as much.
Gotcha.
Obviously, like you'll have your areas that you serve, and like that's where we want to push your stuff out to. But we niche people down in terms of demographic. Upsizers, downsizers, first-time buyers, investors, corporate women. Depending on how big your market is, we can niche down.
Sure.
Like someone in New York can niche down a lot further than someone in, I don't know, some small town in
Rural.
Nebraska,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So it really depends on the size of your market. But the reason why we do it this way, geofarming and location stuff has been around forever. And the
Right.
reason, in my opinion, it was so popular for so long was because it was the only way to be consistent and frequent in front of the people that you were trying to nurture, right? You were cold calling, you were door knocking, you were flyering, or you were like actually mail dropping yourself. And so a lot of the time that was the only way to get yourself in front of those people at enough of a frequency that they would remember who you were. So, what we do now that we have the internet and we can retarget and we can push this content in front of the people who are actually raising their hand and are interested. What we want to do instead, or what we tend to do, is niche people down in terms of demographics so that the
Yeah.
content can be so specific in terms of those people's pains, problems, fears, and desires, right? Because the person who is upsizing because they're having their first child, they can be living in the same area or neighborhood as someone who's just about to downsize, but their
Good point.
pains and the things that they're going through and their desires are so different.
Boy, that's such an important distinction. I'm so glad you said that. So really what we're talking about are creating content around life events, or
Yes.
you said, demographic versus geographics.
Mhm.
And demographics could include geography, but we're talking about, hey, where is somebody at in their life? What do they value? What are their fears? What are their goals? How do I create customized content that can scale, but that specifically, like, I don't want to send, hey, let's talk retirement to people in their 20s and 30s. But for people who are, now nearing the end of their careers and maybe their 60s, that content would look very different to those
Mhm.
individuals than it would be to younger people.
Absolutely. And I think that you're able to get so much more specific and create so much more relevant content when you are speaking to people who have common goals, common themes in their lives. And and this is just kind of basic sales that I think all of us fundamentally know, is that, sales is just current situation, desired situation,
Right.
right? Your current situation isn't serving you. You moving isn't fun. Nobody likes to move, but we do it because we have this desired situation that we truly believe is going to make our lives better. And so understanding that current situation, what that looks like and what the desired situation looks like, and being able to position yourself, your services, everything that you do as essentially the bridge between the two.
Wow. Well, tell us about the listings lab. So we've talked a little bit about sort of the overall philosophy about how you teach people how to be more effective online, to scale, to get more clientele, and to serve those specific clients based on where they're at and how to automate that. Tell us a little bit about exactly what that looks like at the listings lab.
Yeah, so this is basically the program that I wish that I'd had like 15 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of stress. But really, at the end of the day, it's everything from mindset. We always start with mindset. We call it the
Sure.
7 deadly sins of the listings lab. It's the things that really get people stuck. It's
Right.
the perfectionism and the self-sabotaging behaviors and things like that that keep people from really being able to use what we're going to teach them in the program to create everything at the scale that they want. And a lot of what we teach in the listings lab is about authenticity and really showing up as yourself, taking off that realtor hat, putting yourself in the shoes of the people that you want to attract, understanding them deeply and giving them what they need. It's not about you, it's about them. And so we kind of start everything off with messaging, right? The 9-point messaging sequence that we teach that I talked about earlier, market research, understanding like what exactly these people need to hear. Because it's, what someone in Washington, D.C. needs to hear is very different than someone in Gainesville, Florida.
Sure.
Right. So we want to make sure that the messaging is very specifically customized to you, to your market, to the demographic that you're wanting to work with. So once we go through that, then we actually build out, each individual agent has their own signature system or their own unique methodology, right? And so it gets named and branded and marketed alongside each agent, right? Just like I have the listings lab method, my name is Jess. I don't have the Jess method, right? I have the listings lab method that essentially teaches people what to do or how to go, how the basic framework of like what we do together and why our clients get the results that they get. So basically what happens is you end up with this piece of authority that turns into your listing presentation. It turns into some of your content, some of your authority content. It turns into this thing that gives you so much more power and authority, including, when you go out and try to get some PR and the
Sure.
media is asking you about things. And we teach that in the program as well, but of how to attract media and PR attention. But it's not just, oh, here's Joe Smith and he's this great agent in Chicago. It's here's Joe Smith and this is his, upsizing methodology and this is what he does. And it just gives so much more power and authority behind it. So we go through that, and then we go through content creation and the nine different types of content that we teach. We go through everything from, what to say, how it should be spaced, what your videos should look like. We don't teach a lot of really polished anything, especially for social media, just
Right.
because it really doesn't perform as well. So like the
Right.
more raw and organic and authentic it feels, the better it seems to do. So we go through all of that, and then we go through assets. So, your guides, your listing presentations, your all of that stuff. And then we get into the ad stuff, which is going to be writing and creating lead generation ads, omnipresence, setup and retargeting, how to set up your ad account effectively, Facebook groups, and how to grow an engaged and profitable Facebook group. We go through omnipresence, retargeting, setup, pixels, all that good stuff. So like
Sure.
basically what we're doing is we're teaching everyone the organic marketing side and the paid traffic side. Because I truly believe that if you're going to have a really powerful brand online, you need to have both really
Sure.
dialed in. And then just, maintenance of campaigns and how to track everything over time, how to make adjustments. And yeah, that's sort
And
of like, it's everything from start to finish.
and if I heard you correctly, and I may have this wrong, so I want you to correct me.
Hmm.
If it once it's set up, and if obviously you're making adjustments along the way, and you're wanting to probably create new content when it's needed.
Yeah.
But it's really what you say. Do you say 1 hour a week or a couple of hours a week? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even with me, like I have a relatively big audience. I have, my Facebook group, I have Instagram. We're building out in some other areas as well. And I mean, I probably spend an hour a week and I'm creating content for, a lot of people, answering a lot of questions with a lot of engagement. And it doesn't take me longer than that because I know exactly, what kind of content type needs to be created at that point. And I have like a bank of content. of things that like I have lists and lists and lists of content ideas. And so I can sit down and I can look at this list and say, yeah, I feel like doing this one today. Or I have something to say about this. Or, you know, I did a live stream the other day on Clubhouse just about like how agents are using it incorrectly and what, like how to actually use it in the most profitable way for your business.
Sure.
And I did a live stream on that. It was 15 minutes and it was like absolutely value packed in 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours of content, but it takes practice.
Right.
You know, you're not going to write your first 3 pieces of content in 3 minutes.
Yeah, you know, okay. So I'm just thinking as a one of our listeners here, and I would think, boy, if I was wanting to build a team, this is a really important machine that you want to get built and set up so that you can attract other realtors and entice them by saying, hey, the hardest part of this business, of course, is client acquisition, lead generation. I am going to take care of some of that for you because you're going to invest in Listings Lab. And boy, if I was one, and teams are everything right now, right? That's all we hear about are teams. That's all you're hearing about from. And boy, if I wanted to, I mean, we know that brokerages really aren't handing out leads. Most aren't. And that's really probably not their job anyway. And teams really, it's not necessarily their job, but boy, it makes it a heck of a lot more attractive if you're able to say, oh, by the way, so-and-so, if you join my team, let me show you what I'm doing and how I'm attracting clients and how I can introduce you to more people so that you can go out and close the business.
You know, the other thing that, and I should have mentioned this earlier, with the signature system or the expert methodology that each agent has, a lot of the time what happens is in agent marketing, agents tend to position themselves as magic.
Yeah.
And so if you're magic and you're like the real estate wizard, then no one else can do what you do. And so it makes it really hard, and I think so many agents can resonate with this, to actually pass those leads off to other people on your team. Everyone's calling in saying, I only wanted to work with you. Like, I don't want to work with Sally.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we do with the methodology is positioning the methodology as the reason for the results. It's the proven system to get you where you want to go. And then everyone else on your team can be trained and can be an expert at implementing that process.
Wow, awesome.
It does 2 things. It makes the handoff of the lead much easier, and it allows you to build this really solid set of standard operating procedures so that you know that every single client who goes through your team, your organization, your company, whatever you want to call it, is getting a standardized high level of service.
Yeah, that just makes such perfect sense. And I'm gonna do a self-serving. I have a question for you that is 100%. Our audience, you can tune out for the next minute if this bores you, but I think you should listen, because I think we're talking about the same thing. So what I do professionally is I recruit realtors. So one of the guys on my team, I wish it was my idea, but it's David Bovin. I have to give him credit. Earlier today, he said, hey, I have an idea. He goes, over the last year with the pandemic, realtors have obviously not gone into offices very often, and probably not at all. They've been able to still run their business from home, probably to even their own surprise, more than they knew they could before. You know, most agents work remotely anyway, but now they know they don't even have to meet people, and they can do virtual showings, they can do virtual listing appointments, etc. So a lot of this stuff is now become, as you wanted to be sort of independent geographically, now agents can a lot of times somewhat be independent, but at least they could be sitting at home if not across somewhere else in the country. And he said to me this morning, this is such apropos timing, such apt timing. He said, you know, we should be creating content on social media talking about, hey, have you noticed that you're spending a lot more time at home running your business? And our firm, we have a different sort of commission structure. We give back almost all the commission. So we're kind of a high commission, low fee company. But I mean, we have physical offices. No one uses them, but we have them. And so he said, we should be creating content about, hey, have you noticed that you're sitting at home a lot more and probably relying a little bit less upon your firm for some of those tangibles, like, printed marketing material, physical office space. And so I was curious to get your thoughts on, and of course, anyone who's listening can duplicate this as well. If you're looking to attract other agents or even recruit more people to your team or your company, it seems like that kind of content for realtors would be very effective as well.
100%. I follow exactly the same system myself as I teach. It
Because
works.
you're attracting realtors as
I'm
well.
all
Yeah.
my only audience and the only people that I attract are realtors. And I
Yeah.
use exactly the same methodology to do what I do as I teach to other agents. Now, the nuts and bolts of what I do is a little different because real estate's a little bit of a different animal. But we have people who go through the program to recruit for their downlines for EXP. We've got brokerage owners in the program who they build out for their own business, for their own production, but then they also build out a second funnel to attract agents.
Sure.
It 100% works both ways.
Well, I am sold. I am definitely gonna check it out. I want everyone else to go to the Listings Lab. Listings is plural, so thelistingslab.com and learn more about Jess, her methodology, and take a look to see if it's something that you feel. This is the year. We're now. I was saying this earlier the other day. This is the year. Also, if you're like an introvert, what a perfect reason to start to
100%.
get involved, right?
Yeah.
This is the year of the introvert. We're in last year as well. If you're an introvert and you're like, gosh, I'm a real estate agent, but I don't like getting out there as much. It zaps my energy. Well, gosh, you don't have to get out there as much as you used to.
No.
And learning tools like this will really help do the hardest part, especially for introverts, which is going out and finding clients. Not everyone has to be sort of a one-to-one in your face sort of personality to be successful in this business. And having systems like the Listings Lab seems like an amazing idea. So everyone listening, go to not now if you're driving, but as soon as you pull over and go to thelistingslab.com and learn more. And I'm a marketer. That's all I do as well. And I 100% endorse Jess and her company because I
Thank you.
know that they have incredible results. And she is not somebody, there's so many social media experts, social marketing experts, search engine optimization experts, and it's not always clear who's actually an expert. She was an agent. She was a top producer, sold her company, and now is continuing to help agents do what she did in the past. So, she walks the talk, and we're huge fans. So everyone go listingslab.com. Jess, thank you so much for being on our show. It was such a pleasure.
Oh my gosh,
And
it was my pleasure.
I am going to become a client as well because I want you to help me with my real estate agent recruiting. So we're going to do that. Anyway, for everyone listening, I want you to help not only go visit thelistingslab.com, but tell a friend about this episode. Think of one other real estate professional that could benefit from hearing from Jess about taking someone's social media presence and online advertising to the next level to scale, to get more clients in 2021, and send them a link to this episode. The easiest way to do that, just think of a friend and send them a link to our website, which is keepingitrealpod.com. They can stream the episode right there in their browser or have them pull up a podcast app on their phone and look for Keeping It Real. And that would help us continue to serve more and more of our agents and listeners. So thanks, Jess. Thank you so much. And we will see everyone on the next episode. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.